crazy. I played out. I played golf club. First time I played golf club was. God, we sound like a bunch of old people. First time I played golf club was 1994.
Whoa.
I played with Doug Oob, who was on finishing up his internship from Mississippi State. Him and Joe Cruz.
Joe Cruz. Wow.
Yeah. First time I played it. How about that? And here we are.
Yep.
All right, Kelsey, we got the same number of presenters as we have attendees. Oh, there we go. Did y'all flood it all, Chris?
Yeah, we did. I saw pictures. You guys had a little flooding as well.
Yeah, came up about 8 last night and it was gone by noon.
Yeah, it was kind of the same way. He was out there cleaning it up, getting all the debris and getting bunkers back in shape. And we had about, pretty close to 4 inches the last couple of days. So
Will y'all let people play today, or will you make them wait till tomorrow?
we're gonna wait till tomorrow. He's just too wet and too much to clean up.
Not a great product.
No. And he was doing some small tine aerification on Monday, Tuesday anyway. So he had some other things that he needed to get cleaned up on the course. So kind of gives him the afternoon to kind of finish all that up too.
Hello, Clayton.
How are you, Mr. West?
Good.
What's the tooth fairy sign behind you? Is there a story there?
There's a story there. Hello, Jesse.
Hello.
So you familiar with the Yellowstone Club?
Yes, sir.
So it's gone through a bunch of ownership things, and that's the home ski run that comes back to the lodge is called the Tooth Fairy. So we asked our guide that day. I said, "Hey, why is it called the Tooth Fairy?" He said, "Well, when they switched from the previous ownership to this ownership, they told the guy that was buying it, they said, the Tooth Fairy will bring you $1 before this place ever makes money." So,
All right, fair.
I would say he won that bet. So it's just kind of a nod to whenever somebody tells you can't do something, it's like, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Watch.
I like it.
All right, 103. You want to get going, Kelsey, or want to let a few more trickle in? Looks like Pete DeBrawl's having some connection issues.
There he is. Back in.
Y'all, I think we could get started.
All right, great. You going to introduce us, Kelsey, or do we introduce ourselves?
Y'all are all set to go. It's your call. Go ahead and take it.
All right. Well, my name is Brooks West. So I'm at Franklin Bridge Golf Club and Mississippi State PGMer, and I did my first internship at Belle Meade in 2001. That's when I fell in love with Nashville, and then spent about 12 years in sales, and I've been at Franklin Bridge now for 6.5 years, in the middle of year 7. So it was a busy place before we got here, and it's a busier place after. So that's who I am. Who are you, Chris?
Chris Cauthen, head golf professional at West Haven Golf Club. I've been here 16 years. Spent my previous 14 years at Richland Country Club, assistant golf professional, head professional. Graduate Tennessee Tech University, played golf for PGA professional Bobby Nichols back in the day, 100 years ago. But yeah, as Brooks said, we're all experiencing, especially here in Middle Tennessee, a boom, busy tee sheets, whether it's public or private. We're all feeling it. So thanks for everybody for being here today.
Yeah. So we're trying to, Kelsey and Chris and the education committee, just trying to offer as many education opportunities as we can to the membership as we finish up a PDR cycle. So, yeah, I just think, Kelsey and Chris and I felt like this was just a solid topic. Chris said it really well in the intro video, just that, just a place like him to do more than 200 rounds pre-COVID was just unheard of. I know it's hurt the PGA privileges of where you can play. It's not quite as easy to get let out at these places as it used to be. So that's the negative impact on me from COVID personally. But I think we don't have to do a big setup and talk about golf demand and talk about, full membership queues and public courses that you can't get a tee time at. I think kind of everybody that's on this call, has read all those articles and lived it. So, I just think we want to focus on, some solutions today. We do have a fairly small group. I kind of like this size. It's about 8 to 10 of participants. So I think we can make it, super interactive. Chris and I are just hosting. We're definitely not experts, or we don't have big presentation decks and all those things. I definitely have a few things to share, and I know Chris, has his own stuff. So, I just want to, please feel free to jump in, or I've got a few things I think I want to ask as well. But I think I said this in my promo video, but being a PGA professional and now a course operator, this sounds like a bullet point or whatever, but like, I truly believe that depending on the facility you're at, I mean, we could obviously, say at golf club that member service and experience is probably more important than tee sheet utilization. So, but we can definitely say that the way that you manage the tee sheet is one of the most important values that a PGA professional brings to the facility. And if you're not going to manage it, then I just think you're missing out on some value that you can provide. To whether you're private equity where you would own, report to your board, or whether you're, privately owned like me, where we're trying to maximize return. For Chris, reports to a single owner and ROI and maximizing the bottom line is certainly a big part of his job. So I just, I think it's really important that PGA professionals think of themselves as business people. I think playing and teaching is what ultimately separates you, but we all know that you have to do more than just play and teach these days. That's sort of like some principles that you probably would say that but hopefully you're here for maybe a little bit more than just PDR points. And I think that really what COVID and this golf boom has done, I think, is really challenged sort of the status quo of how we manage a tee sheet. And I think one of the biggest things that's been disrupted there is, this idea that the golf course won't be any good if you don't have huge turf care blocks. If you don't start tee times until 8:00 and, you got to do 12-minute splits and you got to be closed on Mondays and, these things. If we go back to like 2005, say, and you looked at the average tee sheet, what I would call utilization, right? So utilization would be of the available daylight that you have to sell, how much of that are you actually selling tee times, right? Because we sell time. That's what public golf is. I mean, private is as well, but you would say it a different way at private. But so I just think that thinking about it from that way is this increase in demand has forced, even the nicest of private clubs to put lights on their mowers, to bring in turf care crews at 5 a.m. instead of 5:30, to decrease the buffer that they have, to add a second verticutting machine so that you can start on 1 and 10 with the verticutters, to frankly, I think push the turf care industry a little bit to be a little more lean and a little more efficient with the course access that they get. We didn't really have full memberships. So I'm gonna let Chris kind of focus on the private, but I think it used to be like public and private were just like, Chris, wouldn't you say were starkly different
Yeah.
15 years ago of how you would think about managing the course? It was starkly different, right?
Yeah.
And now, like, I don't think it's that different. I mean, we probably put the pedal down a little bit more than some, but not by near as much of a gap as what we used to do. So, I mean, Chris, can you shed some light on like how, I mean, you've been at West Haven long enough to kind of see it before and see it now, of how that culture has changed.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're spot on with the way we manage the tee sheet now is a lot more reminiscent of a public facility. I think because, we're trying to maximize utilization, maximize player, engagement as much as we can. I mean, I have 525 active golf members. They pay pretty good sum of money to be members, and the monthly stroke of a check every month. So I think we manage it as aggressively as we can also, while also trying to balance member experience, golf course conditions, et cetera. So it's a fine line, but I had mentioned Jim West and I had a good conversation the other day, and I said, I'm starting to staff my facility much more, probably almost like a resort type. I mean, with starters and player assistants and more specialization touch points than I ever have before. We have to be much more present on the golf course than we ever have. We have to manage the first tee much more than we ever have. So it's changed the game for us quite a bit. I mean, as I mentioned in the promo video, I mean, we do 185 to 90 rounds on a Tuesday. In the private world, that's not very, for 18 holes, that's kind of unheard of for a lot of places. But 200 plus is going to be our norm on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Trying to manage family play on the afternoons of Sunday, walk-up times, all that stuff. And we have to have a presence to where we can't just manage that out of the shop like you used to be able to just sort of manage it from the counter. You have to manage that face-to-face at the first tee and on the golf course. So I agree with you 100%. We manage it a lot differently than we did 10 years ago.
Yeah, you used to just be in the shop and just be like, yeah, just go off the back.
Yeah. Somebody on 9, just go off 10. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's just not the case as much anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, interesting just to, even the nicest of places, I don't want to speak for Kelly or put him on the spot, but I mean, he's having to try to move people around, even at a place like Golf Club, just to try to continue to give the experience that they give. But they're even asking them to be like, hey, kind of let me know your window. And then they're kind of shifting people 30 minutes here and there. So even at, an amazing experience like Golf Club, Kelly's job is trickier than it was 10 years ago for sure. And I mean, obviously having 2 golf courses is another level of that, but so I think, everybody's experienced this. It is a different time. Memberships are full and more golf is being played. And I think some people are back in the office, but I still think there's a little bit of a, play while you're on a conference call culture that's lingered. And so I think that's a beautiful problem to have. So I think, that's kind of the business case for why we're here today. So some of the, the word maximization sounds cute, and utilization, they're big words that I can't spell. And so I think that one of the things that I think is really important at here, and I would imagine Chris would echo this, but I'm interested to hear, is we are really aggressive with pairing people up. We don't allow and that's a multifaceted strategy. That's not just if somebody books for 2, that they get to play as 2. That's also booking for 4 and showing up with 3, or, even worse, booking for 4 and showing up with 2. We charge you. So that's, probably a little bit more difficult at a private club, but, I think, a lot of that, and I'm interested with what Chris is going to say on the private side. I think there's some kind of how much accountability you create for if a guy makes the time, whether he uses it or not, I think is super important. So I'll be sure to hear Chris say that. But for us, I mean, I look at it at least, I don't know how many times a day, 5, 3, 2, 4, 6. And if I see a twosome at 10:20 and a twosome at 9:50, I'm going to move them to 10:10 together. And I'm going to send them both an automatic email moving them 20 minutes. Now, I would never have done that pre this, right? So, I'm trying to create as many foursomes open as I can. And one of the ways that I do that is by moving, I want the maximum number of players available. So if I see a twosome and a onesome, I'm going to move the onesome up with the twosome to make a 3. So now I've got a 4 available. So just little things like that. We kind of put it in our tee time confirmation that your tee time is subject to change by a certain, number of minutes. I'm not going to move you an hour and a half. Right. But, I am going to move you. So I think pairing people up, I think is a really important idea. And then Chris, if you could speak to that. And then also I'm curious, I hear this from some of my private club buddies. It's like, yeah, I mean, guys will just make an 11 o'clock tee time in case they want to play, but then they don't show up and the pro doesn't ever, hold them accountable. So there's actually, you go out there and it's only 60% full, but I can't get a dang tee time. So that's something that I hear, not about your place, Chris, but just in general. So I'm curious, how you handle that.
Yeah, we've experienced the same thing, and so we've been a lot more aggressive. We'll make phone calls to singles, twosomes, try to pair them together, so that we can maximize availability for threesomes and foursomes for somebody to book in. We're also on that same line can be sensitive because we have a membership that we see every day, and then we're trying to make sure they're enjoying their experience. So we get to know the personalities, the playing, the skill levels of our members. So there might be some pairings that this would be a perfect pairing. We can put these two together. That works out. Or, oh gosh, that may not be a good pairing. So let's maybe not force that one. So we have to balance that just a little bit. We have to get to know our membership and understand what's going to be a pleasant experience. While also providing tee time availability to our members. The no-show policy, I had to get a lot more aggressive this year than we ever have. We were running into that issue, 225 on the tee sheet. By the time you get to the end of the day, it was 185. And so it makes it hard for us to plan. It makes it hard for our members to get tee times or book open slots. So we went to a little more aggressive no call, no show policy this year. And if you make a tee time and no show, or if you make tee times for 4 and show it with 2, we're charging people. We're charging you $25, for each slot. So if you make a foursome tee time at noon on a Friday and 2 of you show up, well, then the other 2 that didn't show up, they get charged. Or if you book your whole family, then you get dinged for 2 additional no-show cancellation fees. We put that policy in place. I sent the email out. I even came out with another update here today with just kind of reiterating that policy. And I've had nothing but positive feedbacks on it. I mean, the membership said thank you. It's made it a lot better situation for our staff, because now 225 pretty much means 225 now. I mean, it might be 216 at the end of the day because just of unforeseen things. Some people have canceled, can't get to work, can't leave the office, etc. But we're seeing that seeing far less drop off on the tee sheet than what we started with, and it's providing our members another opportunity to book day of or day before. So it's been a probably a long time coming. Probably should have done it sooner, but we kind of got to that tipping point where, we've got to make a move and we've got to be a little aggressive. And our members have been very responsive to it, and they understand it. Then a lot of them, they call, they say, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it tomorrow. I'm not going to get charged. Or, hey, so-and-so got caught in the office. I mean, we get calls, said, nope, you're good. And like we said, we understand things come up, emergencies happen, you get stuck in the office, whatever. But if if 10 Fridays in a row, you're making a 1 o'clock tee time for 4 and 2 of you show, then we've got an issue that we have to address. And I owe that. It's kind of like protecting the field and the rules of golf. I owe that to the rest of my members as well.
Yep. That's really, really cool. I mean, golf carts, play into that as well. You guys have trouble getting people to get back riding together? I know that Jesse has that issue. I drive by his place, so I know y'all are working hard on that.
We don't have too many issues with you talking about with more than 2 carts going out or
Yeah,
with
everybody wanting their own cart.
Yeah.
And of course that's easier when you're not full.
Yeah, we don't have that issue much anymore. Every once in a while, somebody tries to go the first tee with 3 carts, and we pair them up together and say, hey, I don't have enough carts to give every group 3, so I'm going to need to take one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to speak briefly just on no-show policies at public golf courses. I'm very passionate that I think that golf is too nice to its customers on the business side, not on the customer relations side, but we just are very slow to adopt things. I don't know if it's just, I don't know. I mean, we could speculate as to why, but there's just such a hesitation to do dynamic pricing, to do prepay, to do enforce cancellation policies, to not give rain checks when it ain't raining. It's like the dude shoots 47 on the front and he's like, I want a rain check, and it's like, well, I mean, sorry, bud, yeah. So it's, those kinds of things. I think that, we really, it's been easier given it's my money to put it on the line and say, guys, like people will adjust. Like you don't buy Titans tickets and then wait to see if it's raining or not to decide if you're going to pay for the damn tickets. It's just nothing. Hotels, there's just nothing else that you do that you can reserve the time and then decide, if you had too much to drink the night before of whether you're going to show up. And I just think, and I think all of us, maybe this is collusion, Clayton, so I'm going to get a code of ethics violation, but if all of us will enforce our policies, it'll make it easier on everyone else. So I don't know if I just got us in trouble, Clayton, but yeah, like just remember, like I think some of the best advice I've ever gotten about running a business is don't just benchmark yourself against other golf courses, right? Like my only benchmark is not the GOAT, which is the Hermitage, right? That's not the only person that I'm trying to be like. I'm looking at what's South Hall doing, what's Burger Up doing, what's King's Bowling doing, what's how when I go to Tito's and they manage the wait list and like what are they doing? Because this is the experience that your customers are having everywhere else. And if we're still doing handwritten tee sheets and not having apps to manage their tee times and easily cancel and add and drop players, I think we're doing everybody a disservice. So, but just to get off my high horse, like I think that a big part of tee sheet utilization is enforcing your no-show policy. The best way to do that is to go to prepay. I know that any public operators on here, I think Pete keeps jumping on and off, but I know that can be difficult to enforce. Trust me, I know it is, but they get used to it and they understand. Like they're if you let them get away with it, they're going to do it. And if you don't, they will understand. And then you empower your people to make exceptions when you feel like there are those unique circumstances that the kid did break the ankle that, at the soccer game and the things that like that. So I just think that part of tee sheet utilization is enforcing your no-show policy. That's sort of the talking point to take from there. Sorry, I lost my voice. I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Now, Brooks, I think too, from the private side, is, as I said earlier with the cancellation, I think our, the members want to see that you're actively managing the sheet, that you're doing everything you can to make sure that they have the opportunity to not only book tee times, but that, everyone is following sort of the guidelines. Everybody's sort of playing nice with one another, right? It's like, hey, let's make sure we're not allowing, because the hard thing in a private setting is trying to ensure that you're treating everyone on a equal basis, right? You have to treat people differently, but equity is a big word. You always try to say, what's the most equitable thing to do? You might have to go about it a little bit different with different people, but trying to be equitable in the way that you manage the sheet, the way you enforce your rules, and it starts with T sheet management, no shows, booking policies, etc.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Another, I think, low hanging fruit for increasing capacity is to vary your tee time splits. Your weekday golfers are always faster than your weekend. This is obviously more of a public, but the goal is for me to speak more from public and Chris more from private. So, but to vary those splits. So, I mean, your Monday through Thursday, your average pace of play is going to always be lower than the weekend in public golf. We all know why that is. And then another part of it that I think I would challenge you to think about, and we've pushed the envelope on this some, not as much as I'd like to, just because of some of my starters are tough on me sometimes, but to vary your splits throughout the day, right? So your morning groups are typically your rabbits, not always, but typically, especially during the week. So, I mean, I think it depends on the golf course, of course, and depends on the experience. But if you are a busy public facility, you could start with 7-minute splits for the first hour and then go to 8-minute splits for the next hour, maybe hour and a half, and then go to 9-minute splits. Because if all of those players, or the archetype of those players is that they are faster players, they don't need the normal 10-minute split in order to keep the buffer so there's not a bunch of waiting out there. Now, you obviously can't do that all day. I think everyone on here understands the gradual slowdown that happens in golf tee sheets. So you do have to increase that split, but the decision is not just a binary of, are we going to be a 9-minute split or a 10-minute golf course? Or are we 8 or 9? Or, are we 10 or are we 12? I think it depends on the day and it depends on the time of day.
Yeah, for us, we pretty much stick with the 10-minute, mostly just from a consistency standpoint. It gives us a little flexibility sometimes on groups if we were getting a situation where we have to do a squeeze time or try to work some people in. But so the 10-minute gives us a little more flexibility in that regard on the private side.
Yep. Yeah. So squeeze times, was one of my next bullet points, that you obviously can't do 7, 8, 9s and do squeeze times. So, I mean, there is some breaks that you have to pump, but I do a lot of squeeze times on full 10-minute days because there is a buffer there. Depending on the golf course, some golf courses have slower pace of play. Some, McCabe is going to be faster than, Greystone or whatever, but just green to tee, yardage and difficulty, this audience understands all that nuance. So just don't forget squeeze times, especially in public. I mean, I think private, you're going to probably have a little more like walk up, like, hey, can you get me out, than you would in a public facility, but it still happens. So, the staff, especially your older staff, doesn't like it because they like order. But I like profit. So we agree to disagree. So, you got to be careful with that. Obviously, you got to be strategic where you put it. I'll never put a squeeze right in front of some of my best, most loyal customers. And, kind of like Chris said, you get to know your customers and know where your flexibility is at there. So squeeze times, I think, is definitely, that to me, it's like squeeze times, tee time splits. Those are sort of like, those kind of go hand in hand to either give you some margin so you can do some favors, or whatever, or to help things just go smoothly like that. So,
What about double T, Brooks? What about double T start?
Hold off on that. That's going to take me a few more minutes to explain. So let me go through a couple more bullet points before give me 2 more bullet points, Chris. So one more in public side is the dynamic pricing side. There's just so much hesitation in golf to do dynamic pricing. Obviously that doesn't have application to member cart fees. So you guys can check your Instagram reel for a second, I guess. But the dynamic pricing, again, like every other business is doing it. Hotels, airlines, concerts, sports. I mean, everything else is doing it. So it works better in resort applications than it does in, like for me, maybe more the local public golf course. You've seen, I hate to put them on the spot. I don't think they're on here, but Gaylord has done a really aggressive job with this. And, you hear a few grumbles about people not liking that, some of the locals, but they're more of a resort course than really any other public course in town because they have the hotel, right? So they're trying to maximize that play, that revenue, with somebody who may only be here once or once a year. So you don't have that relational equity that I think is important for the local public course. So to me, the way I advise that is you vary your upper and lower margins based on that factor. To the extent of which you're more resort and have more of a wave of demand, I think is to the extent of which you should use dynamic pricing. To the extent of which you're more local and it's more of kind of the same people playing you, that's where I think you more limit it. So we tested what we called a party rate last year, where we had like 96 was our base rate, and we even went up to 140, and which was crazy, for to charge 140, but we got it. But what happened was over time, we started to see some of our loyal people, loyal public golfers, start to grumble a little and be like, yeah, the bridge has gone crazy. They're charging 140 now. And it's like, well, it's 140 on a Saturday in August, 10 days out. Like, that's not necessarily what everybody's playing. So this year we've come down to like 112 is kind of our max rate. So we got 96 to 112. So that's a much smaller delta. And it's easier when you look at the tee sheet. If you log in as a public golfer, you can kind of see that, well, if I want to play at 8:00 on Saturday morning, I got to pay a little bit more than to play at 10:30. And I think that's a little more palatable. So I just wanted to make a plug for dynamic pricing. Again, my goal as a PJ member and an owner is to help encourage other PJ professionals to be business minded, and to try to drive that revenue. I think it's your job. I know it's my job, so I believe it's yours. I just think of it as a business. You sell daylight, and it's not just about selling the tee sheet out. I think that they don't need a PJ professional to do that. We're in a high golf demand market. So what value are you bringing? If you go sit down with your owner or your GM after this call and you're like, hey, here's 3 ways that I think that we can increase revenue. I can't really increase rounds, but I can increase revenue. Here's how I'd like to do it.
Yeah. And we use a little bit of that, not, from the standpoint of, my owner years ago really wanted to offer, it was really twofold. It was one, to offer a way for members to bring out their families later in the day at a reduced rate or no cost to enjoy the golf course, but also to promote family play later in the day to stay away from peak times. So it sort of was a twofold. But so we do free carts after 3 Friday through Sunday for our full golf members. And what that does is it allows that husband and wife that has 2 younger kids maybe to come out after 3:00 on a Saturday, play 9, stay out of the peak times of the day, but they can also do it at basically free. The other thought process there is hopefully they stay, make a dinner reservation, have food after, enjoy the bar, etc. So we started doing that several years ago, and that has stuck. You can see the people who really take advantage of it. They start booking tee times right at
3:01, baby.
Yeah, which is fine, because it leaves those before 3s open for the ones who want to bring 3 guests and or play their normal Saturday games or what have you. But we also do twilight rates, which a lot of private clubs don't do. We do a kind of a moving twilight guest rate. So somebody wants to bring out a guest late in the day, we do it basically, I base it 3 hours before sunset. That's kind of our twilight. So if you want to come out and play, pay an unlimited rate, guest rate. You can play 13, 14, 15 holes, 9 holes, whatever it is. It's the same rate, but slightly reduced from the regular rate. And we give them a little twilight fee for that. And we have some people take advantage of that as well. They just want to have a guest come play 9 holes, but don't want to pay the prime rack rate. They can bring them out late in the day to play 9 as a guest and pay a little bit less. So we do a little bit of that in our own way. So we change up the pricing a little bit. We also do some winter rates. We change our guest rates in the winter time, and to kind of still promote guest play during those months of the year where the weather's not so nice, where the golf course is a little wet and a little dormant and a little cold out there. So we use some various pricing in a different way.
It's awesome. Those are some, you private boys better taking notes right there. That was some good stuff. Yeah, the last one I think is more of a challenge to you is that turf care communication. I mean, it's always been important. It's always been, I think, one of the Achilles heels of the golf business is that in sales, I was able to see this better than most just because I was a visitor to the facility and but I was in the industry, so I could kind of observe the tension between the superintendent and the golf pro. And I don't know. I've always thought that was silly and detrimental. So I just want to encourage everyone here that a big part of this increase to demand is the pressure that it puts on turf care. And I think to the extent of which the golf staff can be empathetic and over communicate with the turf care team, obviously going to improve their morale. I think that's point number one. But it's all, which is going to improve their performance, but it also gives them opportunities to, if you work with them, like no matter how good your superintendent is, he does not understand the tee sheet as well as you do. He just doesn't. He's looking at chemical rates and you're looking at tee sheet. So bring that expertise to him and say, hey, this Wednesday is looking a little soft. I think I can block 2 tee times and I can get you a spray window on Wednesday morning. I know it rained during your Monday, like this week, it rained on Monday morning. So we were trying to do verticutting and top dressing and we couldn't because it rained. So we moved some tee times back on Tuesday in order to give that turf care access on Tuesday. So I just think, just remember that y'all are in it together and, they're not near as social as us. And, sometimes some of them view the golfer as the enemy. And I know that there are some fundamental issues, but to the extent of which you can reach across the aisle and work with them, show them that you care about their quality of life and their golf course access, recognize that they have been pinched with this golf boom, maintain the same conditions with 30 and 40% more rounds and half of Monday instead of all of Monday, and 6:30 a.m. starts instead of 7:30 a.m. starts, double tee instead of single tee, all of these things having a really real effect on them and their ability to do their jobs. So I just wanted to kind of make a PSA plea that just try to be good partners and remember that more about the nuance of the tee sheet than they do. So I just wanted to kind of make that. Does anybody have any comments on that?
Yeah, we made some adjustments to our tee sheet based on conversations with our golf course superintendent, but also in response to this member surveys about tee time accessibility. So we were able to kind of knock off two goals here. But our Tuesdays are Ladies Golf Association days. Ladies League play on Tuesday mornings traditionally with a shotgun start, and our Wednesdays we do a senior men's league. Well, once we get into season, if we're doing a Monday outing, ladies shotgun on Tuesday, senior men's shotgun on Wednesday, hosting some sort of league or association on Thursday, a member tournament on Saturday or Sunday, my superintendent's kind of looking at me going, when am I supposed to get anything done? So in an effort for us this year to not only free up the tee sheet a little bit, but also give back the golf course, our maintenance crew, a little bit more to get some things done. We went to alternating tee times and shotguns with our LGA and senior men's league. So they never shotgun on the same week. They alternate Tuesdays and Wednesdays, LGA and the senior men's. We also try to be cognizant if we're hosting an association or a tournament that week to do more tee times throughout the week if we know we're doing shotguns at the end of the week. Just frees up more tee times for our members, but also frees up more time ahead of play for a golf course superintendent to get small projects done.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think somebody gonna say something. I thought I heard something. I think it's the same point made a different way, but just if you're seeing soft bookings in a certain time window, especially in the mornings, I mean, it doesn't do any good if you start tee times at 6:30 and you have a 6:30 group and a 6:40 group, and then your next group is 7:20, 7:40, 7:50, 8 o'clock. Like, I don't think that's fair to your superintendent. I don't think that's going to give you the best product you can, right? So what I want is compression, right? I want utilization of the tee times that I have open, especially in the morning. And there's no reason to start tee times early if you're not going to sell, 90% of the tee time window. You're doing your tee sheet and your product, frankly, a disservice. So just watch that and watch it. And that's seasonal. That's different in the spring than it is in the summer. That's different in the summer than it is in the fall. It's different on a UT home game than it is on a UT off week. So, really, I think to the extent of which you look at each week as its own living, breathing organism and work with turf care is not only going to improve their morale, but it's going to improve the golf course. So
Yeah.
I think with higher demand, I think more is asked of us to help them get the access they need because we've squeezed them in so many other areas.
Yeah. We also give them some maintenance blocks behind some tee times. To your point, we might on a Tuesday, we might give them 10 to 10:50 is like a maintenance block. They can get in behind some groups, finish up some projects before we hit peak play again at 11 o'clock. So to your point, communication, try to balance out golf course, playability and the product you're presenting with maximizing play. It's a never ending communication battle.
All right. I'm going to kind of go into hopefully a 5-minute double T thing, and then leave 10 minutes for kind of open Q&A. Where is? Oh, hang on. I apologize. That should be right there. There we go. Can everyone see that? Saying to avoid an infinity mirror, don't share your entire screen. All right, I apologize. I think I'm hitting the wrong button. Could y'all see that?
Yeah.
Or is it
Yeah,
small?
see it. You might want to scroll down some, but I can see the Excel spreadsheet.
All right, it's not giving me there. That might be a little bit better. It's not giving me control of the spreadsheet though. Dadgummit. Apologize.
Brooks, you may need to stop sharing, zoom out on your spreadsheet and then share again.
Okay. Let's try this. Can y'all see that?
I just see your whole screen. See a calculator.
How
There
about
you go.
that?
There it is.
All right. Brooks West, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So the left side that you see here is some analysis of single T versus double T. All right. So all right. So I'm going to try to do this quick, and I'm going to make the point, and then if y'all have any clarifying questions. So if you start tee times at 6:20 and you go 6:20 to 8:20, and then you leave an hour and 20-minute buffer, and then you go 10:40 to 12:40, up and through. So first think of it as winter where the sun sets at 5 o'clock, right? your last 18 hole tee time is about 12:30. Okay. So just think of it that way. And then we'll talk about a third wave when you get to the summer. But if you do double tee during shorter days, you get 27% more 18 hole starts. Okay. So if I do double tee from 6:20 to 12:40 with 2 waves of foursomes at 10-minute splits, I get 208 18 hole starts versus 152 if I do single tee. Okay. So think of that in winter, right? We know when it gets dark early. All right. That's only 4 months of the year. There's also the frost delay thing. We could do a whole hour on double tee, but it just utilization and inventory. Double tee is significantly. This is why when you see a rain delay on tour, they immediately throw the sheet to double tee because you can get more players on the golf course in a shorter amount of time, right? So this is not a new concept. The USGA and PGA professionals have been doing double tees for decades, but you don't often see it with regular play, especially pre-COVID. Okay. So the other way, and I think this is really powerful, is and I'm curious your feedback on this, Chris, but that is also especially in a weekend, everybody wants to play in the morning, right? It gives you more tee times in the more desirable window. So I think and in the winter, that's the warmest part of the day as well, right? So from 10:40 to 12:40, which in March is a 10:40 tee time is better than an 8:20 tee time on a Saturday because of the weather. I'm selling 104 of those versus on single tee, I'm only selling 52. Right. So I'm selling double the number of times in the windows that people want. Saturday morning, everybody wants to play at 8 o'clock because they want to be home for the afternoon and, before their wife kills them. All right. So it's not just utilization. It's also more times in your prime window. Okay. So so I'll not editorialize. If you go into the summer, you can actually go into a third wave, right? And then you can continue this train where you have more 18 hole times available. So on like a Friday, we start a little later because we do turf care on Friday mornings to present the best weekend product that we can. With double tee, we actually have more times in that. I don't have that shown in this screen because this is only a Saturday, but you're actually selling more tee times between 11:30 and 1:30, which is the tee time that everybody wants on Friday. They want to work in the morning, but be home before dinner on Friday. But if you can only sell 50, which would be 12 times, that's not going to meet the demand. But if you could sell 24 of those, kind of that prime window after work, cutting out early on Friday, getting home at a reasonable time. So there's a lot of things about double tee to me that are advantageous, not only to the bottom line, but also to the experience of the player.
Yeah, and we use double tee from time to time, not as much. I mean, obviously more on some winter situations or weather situations for events and things of that nature. Some of the things we'll run into sometimes, especially in the winter time when it comes to frost, is part of our back nine is shaded a lot more than our front nine. So it causes some issues with the frost standpoint. So sometimes we have to take that into consideration. We'll do a lot of shotguns in the winter, actually, because of frost. But I think to your point, if you're trying to maximize that utilization during some of those parts of the year, especially summertime, if you can sell those morning slots a little bit more at a premium also, hopefully. If you can sell more of those morning slots to beat the heat in July and August, that's also a good way to do it.
Yep. I had something else I was going to point out about that. In the winters, I mean, when you're going to frost. So, I mean, like Pete, for you guys, when you're going to frost, you just go ahead and do a 10:30 double tee. You don't even try to sell a tee time before that because the frost isn't going to lift until 9:15. So then you're going to start your single tee at 9:15, and you can only go to 12:20. That's only three hours. But if you do 10:40 to 12:40, that's the warmest part of the day. You know that you can sell 104 premium rounds. You're not going to have to manage a frost delay. The customer experience is better. You can reduce your staffing windows. You don't have to have that guy there waiting to know when the frost is going to lift. It makes life easier on turf care. When you know there's going to be frost, so what we do is we always block the first wave in the wintertime. And then we unblock it as the forecast proves there's not going to be a frost. And then we unblock from the bottom of the wave and we move up as it books. I don't know if I went too fast there, but that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we got about 10 minutes left. So one kind of maybe a way to start getting people more engaged talking is anybody using Notify? Notify? Is any of the public guys using that?
No, sir. No.
Yeah, we haven't used them either. They basically are trying to sell singles. And then they're kind of backdooring in as a booking platform too. They're building customer profiles and, they're kind of making a relationship with your customer. So I'm always, hesitant to let anybody else market to my customer as best I can. So, that's just one curious.
Has anyone ever toyed around with doing mini loops, like 6-hole loops, early morning before maintenance type of options for anybody? Has everybody had any experience with that and how it's worked for them? Depends probably too on how your golf course is set up and how it returns back to the clubhouse. But you're talking about being creative. A few years ago when we did our golf course renovation in 2022, we only had 12 holes available, and we came up with a system. It was actually a double crossover, and we did 3 6-hole loops. We had the golf course rated, so if you started on one side of the golf course, it had a certain rating. You'd play 6 holes, cross over, play the other 6, and cross back and play the 6 you played again, to play 18 holes and to play an 18-hole rated golf course that you could post scores. We also had you play from some different tees when you played that second 6. Essentially, we had a 36-hole golf course for a little while. But I mean, we were still able with only 12 holes. I mean, we were playing 160 to 175 rounds a day, on some busy days with a double crossover. So it was an interesting several months, but it worked out pretty well. It was actually kind of fun. Everybody enjoyed it.
That's really gracious for you guys to create that. Barry Bishop was on here. I don't know if he's still on, but I know that they do. They'll sell 9 holes on Saturday morning off of the back 9, so it's sort of a modified double tee.
Yeah.
Because that's a way to. There is a demand for that, I think, in certain markets. You obviously, I don't think that you should sell 9 holes in peak times, but that's just it's kind of that came to mind when you were talking, Chris. I know that Willowbrook does that.
Yeah, we've had some interest. I mean, we've got kind of a natural loop on our 10 through 13 and 18. They can cross over, finish at the clubhouse. We've had some demand and talked about ways to maybe do some early morning, probably not Friday or Saturdays, but maybe like a Thursday morning, something like that. Somebody wants to come out early, knock out 5 or 6 holes, and go about their day early on before maintenance. So I was just curious if anybody's had any of that experience, anything like that. What about managing, obviously having events and how you manage hosting events, whether it be private clubs doing member tournaments or Brooks, hosting qualifiers and other events throughout the year and managing tee sheet. What's kind of your thoughts or anybody's thoughts on hosting events at their facility and what that does to, bottom line or affecting your tee times or tee sheets, etc. Pete, what do you guys experiencing there?
We do a lot of modified shotguns, Chris. 60 players, block them, in the back nine, get them through one, and then open up after that. So if they have, 40 or more and, on a time crunch, we try to help them out and get as creative as we can with shotguns.
Yeah, charging pretty close to are you charging pretty close to normal rate?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Try to. I know some courses have done premiums. We haven't gotten there yet, but just rack rate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the days of discounting for big groups is not a thing anymore.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just pretty much you can pay the normal rate.
We went to flat rates on our outings. Anything that can't be a reverse shotgun is, I don't care if you have 66 or 140, it's the same price. That was a massive decision for us that made tens of thousands of dollars and lots of heartache reduction too. So that's, we will sell a per player reverse shotgun. You gotta be a little bit careful because they take longer and it's not a 1-for-1. I know you know that, Pete, but, yeah, I mean, I'll speak just, fortunately to be the operator and the PGA guy. Like I try hard to have an affordable junior rate. We try to host as many qualifiers as I can stomach, hosting junior tournaments and yeah, I just, it's easy for me to justify it to myself. So I just think it's the right thing to do. It's definitely leaving money on the table. There's no question about that. You obviously make up some of it with with spectator carts. I think there's some goodwill there just from people seeing your facility, especially when they come from the private clubs that, they see what we're doing and it helps with sort of the general positive, not only perception of the facility, but there's just goodwill there. So I don't think there's things that you can't measure. I think it helps. So I just encourage all of us to try to justify to your boards and ownership to continue to be great hosts, even though you're busy. I know it's a tough sell. That's what I think. Yeah, Pete, sorry.
Do you have any structure where Saturday juniors can't play till after 2? And do you have anything, I bring my daughter out to play, that's one rate, but if you get 4 16-year-olds that come out to play, is that a different rate?
Yeah, great question. So peak days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so the whole week it's $20 to play as a junior. All right. And you have to walk unless you're with a paying adult who can ride. I'm not going to, if you want a cart, you pay another 25, but, all Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have to be accompanied by a paying adult. So a group of 16-year-olds cannot play at 9:00 on a Saturday morning for $20 each, but a father can bring his 3 sons out for $60, 20. I will allow that. Yeah. If he's there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, that's just opportunity cost, but yeah, there's just nothing like, I played golf with my dad on Saturday morning, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have any restrictions on juniors playing accompanied. Ours is 20. Same thing. Junior rate's $20 all times. If they take a cart, they pay the cart rate. We don't charge for juniors 12 and under. So it's only 13 and above. And we're pretty lenient on if you're a college student, we kind of try to help you out a little bit if we
don't
can.
check their ID.
That's right. Yeah, if they look young enough, we'll take their word for it.
When can they play unaccompanied?
Well, typically it depends if they're certified. If they've been through our junior programs or certified, they won't have any restrictions. If they're not that, we ask them to play in the afternoons with their parent or with an adult. So it has to be somebody that we know has been through our program and is able to understand etiquette and play the golf course unaccompanied.
All right, 1:59. We'll end on time. Respect everybody's time. I if you want to reach out to me, obviously you know how to get in touch with me. I know I'm grateful everybody's here. I like smaller groups. So I can able to look. I know most of you, so it's fun to see you here. And yeah, we're all in this together. Let's ride the wave and do it with excellence. It's a privilege, not a right. And let's meet the moment.
Yeah. Thank y'all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brooks. Thanks,
Thanks,
Chris.
Brooks. And
Appreciate it.
Chris.
Thank you guys.
Have a great day.